eScribe software and some software with respect to records management. Brent would have some with respect to GIS and so on. It's not a matter of excluding those. It's just making sure that we have a process that screens it through IT, that it's not going to be disruptive or cause problems, and it has the security level. So that's all. It's just a step to make sure that people aren't adding a software that is kind of their pet software, and it ends up compromising the overall operations in some way. It's not likely to happen, but it's just that. It's just to have people just run it by their IT guy, and he says, we don't see a problem.
Okay.
Good.
You're better to overkill on this
Exactly.
than to not do enough, because in this day and age, the justice areas, these things, it's crazy. So you're better to, I don't think it's draconian at all. I think it's very appropriate.
Okay. Any more discussion? The motion was to receive and file, and the staff has implemented this as a policy. All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. 6.3, zone amendment Ruppy and Arkville. This is the application that was presented at the last meeting and brought back for approval in the bylaw. Anybody have any? Councilor Cook?
Reconfirming the recommendation.
And pass it. The recommendation is that we pass the bylaw. This is coming back.
I'll second that.
Second by Councilor Underwood. Any other questions regarding this? Deputy Mayor Day?
As I understand that the manager of building services at the county had a few questions that she wanted answered before she would encourage this zoning amendment to be approved. And I'm just wondering how those have been dealt with by the planner. So through you to the planner, how those issues were dealt with.
The Director of Community Services didn't require they be answered before this. Council will note that in this bylaw, just like our second unit bylaw provisions in dwellings, requires that you get a private on-site sewage system approved under the Ontario Building Code. That's just like the second unit in dwelling, and that is required. It's required to get a permit, quite frankly, so it is covered in the zoning. It's covered in the building code.
Yes, I guess
Item L on the list of conditions. Yeah.
well, she hasn't provided an approval, right? Because she has 3 issues that are outstanding to her.
And those will be addressed through the building permit and the zoning provisions that will be enacted by council. The building permit won't be issued until a permit comes from the County of Lambton approving the septic situation for the use.
Okay, very good.
Councilor Russell?
Okay, I think what the deputy mayor was going toward in a sideways way was saying we pass it and we don't worry, but it's not dependent. Passing a zoning bylaw isn't dependent on that, is what you're basically saying.
Correct.
Correct?
It will be addressed before a permit is issued for the new building. It has to be addressed. That's what's in the zoning. It has to be addressed.
So precluding that issue, whatever the issue might be, doesn't mean anything as far as you're concerned as to the passing of this zoning bylaw.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, so the issue of, so for example, through you two, I'm all talking the issue of the dual septic tanks, for example, is a non-issue, even though it's an unusual issue on a single lot.
That's correct. The county will sort out what's acceptable sewage.
No, I understand that.
Yeah. That's correct. It's a non-issue.
The technical I can understand.
Absolutely.
I'm not talking technical now because I think the answer that you gave the deputy was quite correct. And
Yes.
Corrine will deal with it, and we've got all the faith in the world in Corrine. That's not where I'm going. I'm kind of dancing to the other side, the planning aspect. This is the chicken and the egg type of an argument. This is a horse and a cart type of an argument. So you're saying you can pass the bylaw, and those technical things will come with it because we're passing it based on prescribed things within the bylaws. That's what I'm getting at. The technical issue. Okay, so then my final point to that is it unusual then for the second septic bed on that limited size lot? Simple as that. Is it unusual in your experience?
Not an expert on septic systems,
I
don't
didn't say you
pretend
were.
to be,
That wasn't
and I'm
what I
not
asked
to
you.
issue the permit.
You have Corrine to be an expert. I
Yeah.
think we got past that point, didn't we? planner, is it unusual? Because I've had input to me that it's, like 2 on 1 and all this, and I'm going, I'm not an expert on food. After all the last few years, you think I could be, but I'm not. I raise enough of it, but really, is it unusual in having applications for a zoning change to have a septic on a single lot like this? Because we used to have granny flat type things, right?
This is the first application we've had for this under the new legislation passed by the province. So we don't have another one. We might have a second dwelling unit in a dwelling, and how the county dealt with that was dealt with in the zoning because it was already covered in the zoning. So the county would have dealt with that, and we wouldn't have allowed the second unit, a building permit to be issued for the second unit until the county was satisfied with septic. How it's addressed, I can't comment on that, John. I don't know.
My experience would be that the only one I could remember other than the second one within the unit would be a granny suite of sorts, or those types of things where they still would have to technically go through the county. Technically, Green and crew would have to give all the approvals and make sure that the permeability and all those technical poopy things would be good, right? That's really what you're, thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Day?
I'm just wondering if council had any other thoughts about the fact of the trees being removed and whether there was going to, I know there was some suggestion that we have some replanting in our municipal greenery, our little greenhouse there we have on that road. Is that some remediation like that? Is that something the council's concerned with?
We don't know that we put that condition on there. We didn't talk
Wasn't
about
formally
it.
done. It was discussed.
Councilor Russell?
Mr. Mayor, I think if we read it, what was suggested was that it be looked into, and I think through you to the planner, thank you, you did look into it. Second resolution was looked into, and what we found out through this report is that the county tree bylaw is obviously, personally, I would say wanting in some areas would be the way to put it. So the only way I think to answer the deputy's question would be that if the proponent, if they wanted to voluntarily say that they would replace those trees, the fact that we brought it up and we suggested it was a good neighbor type of thing, I think that would be the only way we could handle it. We do not have the legislation to be able to enforce it, so I think we just do it as a good neighbor policy. If they'd like to plant some trees in another common area, we'd encourage it. I think that would be more applicable to this. So obviously, we don't have a law.
Okay. Any other comment? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And we'll do the bylaws later on. 6.4. Report number 1. Brent?
His inaugural report.
Councilor Munson?
Can I do a little preamble before I move this report? Because we've had some development since Brent did this report, and through you to Brent, it's an excellent report. We met and it hits all the highlights, but we have had some development, so we may have to take this report and massage it a little bit and shape it into something else. On Friday, I had occasion to speak with John Giberson, what's his title? Utility superintendent? And the mayor of South Huron, and they had read about our oversight committee in the paper, and were a little bit curious as to what that meant. So after some really positive, good discussion, they have asked, would we take the oversight committee and roll it into a working group of the sewage board with South Huron and Lambton Shores initially, because Blue Water doesn't seem to have an interest in this. We talked about membership, and that's something we can bring up to the sewage board. They were suggesting the director of community services and myself and the mayor, with Councillor McGuire and Deputy Mayor Degg as the alternates, and then they would have Mr. Giberson and the mayor and one other councillor. We talked about having an arm's length, which is in this report, engineer as a facilitator for this working group. And the intent of this group is to look at alternatives that this council has resolved in tight timelines